Hello and welcome to the channel. In today's video, it's going to be a very quick, simple video just on how to actually resolder a new connector onto your battery. So I have this brand new battery from C&HL. It's a 4000 mAh and then it's got an EC5 connector on it. And I use XT90s. So I want to actually put this onto this battery. I'm just using quite a cheap soldering iron, to be totally honest with you. I've just got my little third hand, which is really useful. But the most important thing I find when you're doing any soldering is decent solder. I use this, which is tin content 63%, lead content 37%, 1 mil thick. But this is really good stuff, this, and it lasts for absolutely ages. So the first thing I need to do is take this connector off. Now, there's a few ways you can do this. You can just push these out and also, desolder. But because it's a nice long lead, I'm just going to cut it. But just be careful when you're changing any battery connectors. Never cut them both at the same time because you could create a short and then that battery's not going to be very good if it creates a short. So I'm just going to do one line at a time. I'm going to do the live first, get that connected onto the new connector and then do the negative. So I'm just going to cut this as close as I can. There we go. And then I just need to peel back a little bit of this. It's about ½ an inch, about 4 mil. Key thing as well is to make sure that your soldering iron is really, really hot. Just going to give it a clean. Wet sponge is always handy to have. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of solder onto my actual solder iron. Make sure it is actually melting, it's hot, which it is, nice. Then what I'm going to do is actually tin my wire first and get some solder into this. You don't want tons on it, but you just want to make sure it's nicely tinned. And you don't even have to touch the solder iron onto that. You just hold the actual solder iron underneath the wire and then just touch this onto the wire and it will, if it's hot enough, it'll go through. For thick wires like this, which is a 10 gauge, you do need quite a lot of power. This is a 80 watt soldering iron. I've also got a smaller one that I'll use for thinner wires. You can see there, that's nicely tinned, got a nice bit of solder through the wires. One thing to remember as well is before you actually start soldering your connector on, make sure this pit goes on first. There we go, just put that right down to the bottom. Oops. Going to be putting the positive on first, so make sure you've got the correct orientation. So I've got the plus sign there, which is the red, and the minus, which is the black. And what I like to do is just clamp it down, use my third arm on the surface like that, and then I can just put it straight into that. And what I'm going to do first is actually tin this. So I'm going to put a bit of soldering into the actual connector first. And next what I can do is just line my wire into it. Put the soldering iron over the top of it and you should feel it just go down and start melting. And you want as much as that wire into that connector as you can get. Hold it for a few seconds. And there we go, it's a nice connection. It's nice and shiny, so there's no cold and it's nicely flush with it. I'm not saying I'm the best solderer in the world, but that's not going anywhere. I give it a really good pull. That's not coming off anywhere. Can dangle the battery with it as well. Perfect. So the next thing now is to cut off the black side. And again, about the same amount off this side as well. There we go. Give it a twist. Again, we want to tin this. And you'll actually see the solder actually soak into the wire, and that's perfect. Remember this point to get your connector over the top of your black wire as well. There we go. Just be careful you don't touch the black wire with the red wire at this point. Just keep them nice and separate. I'm going to turn the actual connector over to the other side. There we go. And we're just going to hold this in here. Just push it down at the same time. There we go. And now we have this connected absolutely fine. Like I said, I'm not the best solderer in the world, but that's nicely connected. It's not going anywhere. It's nice and tough. And just make sure you give it like 60 seconds or a couple of minutes before you actually pull this over, just to make sure that's nicely cooled so you don't melt any of the plastic. And there we go. Click that on. It's in there nice and tight. Got the red on the positive, black on the negative, and that's all nicely connected. And that's how you solder a new connector onto your battery. Very straightforward, very simple. Obviously, there's a lot of different connectors out there. I like the XT90s. I've always have done. They're not the best, but they're certainly not the worst. But that's what I have on all my rigs. So, if you found that useful, any questions, any comments, anything that you do a bit differently, please feel free to comment underneath. Thank you for watching. Remember to put them thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, I'd really appreciate if you do subscribe. And if you like this video, watch one of these videos next. Thank you.